So today we have got Ruth Milner, who is quite a big cheese in the Photizo world, and we're going to be talking to her. I'm really looking forward to catching up and picking her brains. We are going to be on again. We're going to have our next podcast, guys, on, he says, looking at his little script, on Tuesday the 7th of July. So that's 5 weeks from today. We're going to try and get them kind of the first Tuesday of each month, so you know where you stand and you know what to look forward to. As an accompaniment to this series of podcasts, I'm writing, what I'll do is I'm going to write up a description of the kind of things that we discussed, and at the same time I'm going to start a 10-part series. The first part is already done, looking at light healing, looking at the mitochondria, looking at how light can influence the function of the body. So without any further ado, we have got Ruth Milner here. So Ruth, tell us about you, and tell us about you and Photizo. So who are you, and how did you discover the Photizo thing? That's intriguing, because
I can go into my Photizo journey.
Oh yeah,
well, my
journey, it's becoming quite a key topic.
Yeah.
But tell us when you started, because I imagine back in the day, light was not really recognised as being so important.
No, well, interestingly, my background is that I've been working commercially in the electrotherapy device world since my kids were little, really little.
Okay.
Very fortunate to come on board with an entrepreneur that started a very niche business in the UK, partnering with a Taiwanese firm, developing very high quality electrotherapy, and those are all the consumables. So we are electromagnetic beings, and that sort of thing. So it was and I'm really passionate about natural healing anyway, and it fascinated me. I was very fortunate to get that opportunity, and it was just one day I was chatting away to one of the customers down in South Africa that we supplied consumables to in the electrotherapy world. And as you do, we were just chatting away, how things going. And anyway, so our customer said, we're working on some really exciting stuff. And then it was just going off about all red light therapy, because back in the 90s, of course, that was when there was big things going on with NASA and all red light being used up in space station projects. They didn't want to use laser up there, and I think NASA funded some red light stuff. There was some, even back early then, there was some phenomenal research going on with the use of red light for oral mucositis in kiddies that had to have bone marrow transplants and that sort of thing.
So that would be ulceration of the mouth because you're on chemotherapy and things like that.
It was and even some of the results were showing back then that utilizing red light therapy preventatively prior to the bone marrow and the chemo and that sort of bone marrow transplant was actually eradicating or vastly reducing the severity of the oral mucositis. And now, of course, we have licensed red light devices or photobiomodulation devices, even, it's recognised in the NHS for that application. Okay. So that was a really interesting out of the blue conversation one day, and it was ping, like a light bulb moment, and I thought, wow. And then I just started on my own deep dive because I was familiar with laser, low level laser as it was traditionally. That's where this modality really started, was with the low level laser devices. And but I wasn't aware even at that stage that there was the light emitting diode technology
Yep.
that was vastly
Yep.
improving, and it
Like
was just,
this.
yeah, and yeah,
Like this. This is
amazing.
a light emitting diode, which is very so yeah. So a diode is a part of circuitry, and when you put electricity through it, it produces a very specific wavelength of light. I think
Yeah, it can
is what
now.
that's about.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it advanced. The LED technology advanced significantly from the old-fashioned light indicators on electronics and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, we're even 20 to 30 years past those early LEDs. Makes it much safer, of course, for eyes.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that was my journey, and by then there were quite a few very useful textbooks that were starting to come out, which I invested in.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you got me this one, which I'm very
Yeah,
pleased to read. It's a fascinating book. So thank you very much for that.
you're
For those,
welcome.
if you're listening to this, this is Light Therapies by Anadi Martel, Martel. Light Therapies, a complete guide to the healing power of light, and very comprehensive it is as well. So,
Yeah, so
so
Anadi
yeah.
is one of the
Hmm.
co-founders of the International Light Association. So I helped set up the UK chapter with a couple of
Right.
UK
Yeah.
members, and we're a global kind of community of all sorts of professionals, researchers, academics,
Yeah.
healers, therapists that are really tuned into the healing benefits of light, colour, and sound. That book in particular, and Ardi's got, and with the help of some of the other lads in the ILA, have done
Yeah.
a phenomenal historical account of the pioneers, and prior to like the Flexner report publication, turn of 20th century, how
Yeah.
light was being used phenomenally for all sorts of healing. But it was only really since the Andre Mester account, 1967, that by accident discovered the faster healing phenomenon with
Okay.
an experiment he was doing on rodents.
Right.
And then subsequent to that, the real big hitter in red and near infrared light was Russian scientist Tina Karu, who
Ah, okay.
undertook a 20-year program of looked at the action spectra of all colors. And it was her work that really identified that it was the red and the near infrared
Yes.
wavelengths that
Yeah.
there's certainly the near infrared that penetrated that deeper into the body.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she
And
was also
yeah.
the scientist that finally discovered the key mechanism that has never been disputed of the simulation of cytochrome C oxidase
Right.
and the mitochondrial stimulation.
Yeah. That the mitochondria need light as part of the production of ATP, and if you don't have light, you've got a very poor ATP production. So that for me goes to support this idea that we are very much creatures dependent on light. Now everybody knows the plants are dependent, absolutely, no light, no plants. But actually the idea that we mammals, because we all came along from mice back in the day. There was the meteor strike 63 million years ago. Everything went dark, and the only animals that were able to survive were tiny little mammals like this. And that we, the story goes, have evolved from that. And as that light increased after the meteor event, so we flourish from just being mice to being the diverse species. Get everything from woolly mammoths to elephants to whales to everything, all of whom are dependent on light. And when you talk about light, we're talking kind of 620, 660 and beyond, up into the 800 nanometer light range. These are the higher frequencies of visible or perceptible light. Is that about what is that your thoughts on the light?
Yeah, I think we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg, in
It's
all
all very
honesty,
new.
Nick,
All very new. I know. Yeah.
But going back to specifically the red and the near infrared, for
Yeah.
modern mainstream acceptance with the amount of papers that have been published, and I think there's some argument to say that over the 50, we're reaching 5 decades, I think, of the accepted research. So it's one of the most, or the most researched of all the light therapies that we know of.
What is the red light? So you're talking
Red
red
and
and
infrared.
near infrared.
Yeah,
Yeah, up. So this is
yeah,
busy light up at the top end of the
because
spectrum.
you've got in the other end of the visible light spectrum, you've got your blue, you've got UV,
And the
even up in
infrared,
the 60s,
so it's
they were using
ultraviolet. Yeah,
ultraviolet and blue,
yeah,
used a lot in dermatology, but you have to limit exposure when you're using at that end of the light spectrum are high frequency, whereas the red is low frequency, longer wavelengths that vibrate. It's a lower vibrational, and that's probably why it goes that bit deeper into the body. Because
right.
when you're listening to kind of bass sounds with sound frequencies, the bass goes, it vibrates
Penetrates.
right through you,
It
penetrates
penetrates.
right through you.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it was a light bulb moment. I got on board with the team that developed Photizo back in, kind of started in the early noughties, I think, really development, deciding, the frequencies, wavelengths and that sort of thing, and expressed an interest to bring it to the UK, which
Okay.
turned out great. It all kicked off with a first professional higher price device in 2008, but we didn't really start going until we got the low cost little device that people know.
Yeah.
And License for Animals, that was the only one we could sell, but it brought the price right down for everybody to use. Well,
Yeah, it made it accessible because I remember back in the day you could use lasers, low intensity lasers, but you'd have to wear glasses in order to use them. We were using them for acupuncture, and they were thousands. And if you drop them, boom, that's it. They were pretty delicate machines, whereas these are a little bit more roughy, tufty, and they are affordable. So people can buy them if they've got dogs with or cats or any animal. Come to that, horses, then they can actually buy them. And if you think of how much a pharmaceutical treatment for inflamed joints costs, actually, I think they are very good value. So that's I think makes the difference between something that sounds good on paper, but you can only get it in a laboratory and it's really fancy 621 nanometer light and what have you, to something that you can actually put in your handbag and take around with you, put in your glove box in the car. So that's really good. And as far as I can see, you can use it, as Yaz was saying last month, you can use it at a distance for promoting healing for skin. You can use it a little bit closer up for getting that penetration, for helping with lymphatics and healing of the tissues, reducing inflammation, improving the metabolic health of those tissues. Is there anything that you shouldn't use it for? I know the answer to this, but people who are joining this pod might not know that quite as well. So is there any areas that you think people should know to not use the Photizo? Yeah, because otherwise you can use it on anything. So what about areas that you want to really talk very carefully with your vets, or be careful using the Photizo? What would you say?
At the moment, to be honest, Nick, there's the only contraindication is if there's diagnosed or suspected site of a tumour, or it's not, or it's not been. There's no biopsy, and it's suspected, and then we just to be on the safe side, we say just don't use it around that area. It doesn't mean to say that if they've got any sort of lump tumour that's been investigated actually on the body, that they can have it applied to their paw, for instance, for a sore paw.
Yes. Yeah.
But the jury's out at the moment.
Okay.
Although the big hitters on the original laser therapy handbooks have always said that this light therapy modality doesn't cause or cancer or make it worse.
But just to be on the safe side.
To be on the safe side, we say, I mean, obviously there's animals that often have lumps removed and that sort of thing. And so we always refer people back to their vets to make sure that the vets are happy, that they've got everything, if they want to use it then for the post-surgical wound healing. But they have to refer back to the vet.
Okay, so that's really good. So basically, don't treat an unknown lump with light, and if you've got a known lump, then talk very carefully with your vet. Would be the take-home message there, just to be on the safe side. There isn't anything. This therapy is going to exacerbate that tumour. There is not that evidence. However, we are all just playing it safe and just saying, if you've got a known lump, don't use the light in case there's a stimulatory effect that we don't know about. That may in 20 years time we might find it. So we're just being a little bit cautious there. I think that's really, really wise.
Precautionary approach is
okay. That's really good. So you've just come back from the flyball championships, and what's the vibe there? Because you've got some of the hardest working. Well, I'm sure the Welsh shepherds and the New Zealand shepherds would have something to say about that. But some of the hardest working athletes, shall we say, athletes in the world. So. They're getting injured all the time. These guys, these collies and the whippets and very athletic malamutes and what have you. So, what are the kind of conversations you had at the flyball championships this year? And if you're watching this is 2026.
Yeah. So we have literally just landed back at the office yesterday after our ambassadors Cambridgeshire flyball team hosted the World Cup. There was eight countries that took part.
Okay, so it's like the Olympics, like a mini Olympics.
Brilliant. It was actually like that with the flag bearers and all the rest of it. But it's phenomenal. There's some countries that are perhaps not as educated about the idea of using this modality as part of the mix for their canine athletes.
Which is why we're doing this podcast, Ruth.
Obviously, we've got some really good established dose guidelines for your wounds, your tissue healing, supporting tissue repair, recovery, and the temporary sort of pain relief effect. But what the evidence or the dose guidelines have now come later, and I think there was a masterclass paper actually published in 2019 coming off the back of multiple studies on elite human athletes looking at dose guidelines for large muscle groups, small muscle groups. And there's always been this discussion about using it proactively for sports recovery and preparation, helping with flexibility, you know, if there's older
Yeah.
injury sites, that sort of thing. Because the
Yeah.
canine conditioning professionals that support the teams, you know, they bring in, it's a multimodal approach, obviously, with the strengthening.
Of course.
So yeah, we're just sharing the fact that the teams that are already on board with integrating a device like Photizo,
Yep.
which including the world champions and the European champions, and the winners of the World Cup was Belgian team called the Titans.
All
So
right, and they're actually using the Photizo as part
yeah,
of their
yeah,
to help athletes recover, even if they're not injured. They're
yeah,
actually saying,
yeah,
you know,
for
you can
both,
do a lot of work with your stifles, with your hips, with your
yeah,
elbows, with
backs,
your wrists.
yeah,
Give you a little some support on your back. Okay, that's good, because it's
absolutely,
very difficult to do any harm, isn't it, Ruth? It's very difficult to do any harm with
yeah.
with light, and in particular Photizo. Is that right? Have you ever seen any harm? There you go.
No,
That's a
I can
question you weren't
hand on
expecting.
heart, since
Yeah.
all the years I've been, you know, obviously I was studying it before
Yeah.
Fatizo came
Yeah.
along and we launched it, but I can say hand on heart, I've scoured the
Yeah.
papers and the feedback
Yeah.
and the books for harms.
Yeah.
There is obviously this understood what they call biphasic response,
Yeah.
where, you know, a small bit of stimulation or application, and it starts the ball rolling, and you get this upward curve,
Yeah.
and it reaches an optimal sort of peak level of stimulation, and then
Yeah.
over if you stimulate more, then it comes back down again, but into an inhibitory effect.
Uh-huh.
So there's some debate about whether that inhibitory response is what's taking it over into inhibiting the pain. Uh,
Okay. Yep.
with regards to saying to people about, you know, their thinking or their concern about harms, really,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where that comes from. But
Yeah.
in, you know, we just say, if you're treating a wound,
Yeah.
especially a deeper, say, post-surgical wound,
Yeah.
where you're primarily wanting the wound to heal as naturally as possible, so from the wound bed outwards, you want
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
new
Mm-hmm.
tissue, that granulation to come in and gradually close, you know, in a natural way. We say keep to the protocol that is specified in the user guide that comes with
Yeah.
the Butizo. Other than that, I would say the guidelines that we're allowed to print in the user guide, or the
Mm.
IFU, the instructions for use, are
Yeah.
probably very conservative, and more
Right.
often than not, if people are treating something deeper,
Yeah.
your peacocks might be asking for it.
The peacock, yeah, they're actually
Yeah,
very well, actually. And I mean, I could close the windows or what have you, but I think it's kind of charming to have a bit of
that's
real
lovely.
life. And yeah, they are incredible creatures. Maybe we should do a show on peacocks, because they are
Well,
creatures of vibration. You know, they can hear a tsunami or an earthquake, you know, hours before it hits. They
yeah,
really are.
yeah,
And I think, you know, the plume that comes out here, I think that's probably parabolic, so as to focus any noise. The boys who do the big display, but the girls, they're a lot more subtle, as girls usually are, and they're a lot more subtle, and they may just make a tiny little cheepy noise. So I think the boys are producing this big parabolic thing
yeah.
in order to focus the noise, so that they can pick up these very subtle messages from the
Well, it's the
girls
colour frequencies.
and the color frequencies. Yeah, yeah, because in fact they say that peacocks, they have no color. It's to do with the diffraction of light, which gives you those incredible blues and golds and greens and what have you. Because if you look at the fan from the back, it's really very plain, and they just rotate and they're ding all of a sudden. So let's do a show on peacocks and light and sound vibration and what have you. So we'll talk to Tom to get one booked in. Yeah,
we've certainly had feedback on arthritic chickens.
Yeah, I'm sure. Basically, if you've got inflammation, then absolutely think of photobiomodulation as something. Photizo. It's a great place to start. I'm sure there are others, but other companies. But
but going back to the doses, just to touch on that, the flyball and any canine athlete aspect.
Yeah.
So obviously, the switched on people that participating in all those sports, they obviously know about the effects for when hopefully the dogs don't get injured, but if they do, then they've got
they
it
will.
there.
Yes.
But in terms of the newer evidence that's come out from, say, the human elite athletes, we've got dose protocols now for large muscle groups, small muscle groups. So we've actually done some calculations to percentage-wise reduce it down according to weights of dogs. From 7 kilos up to 30 kilos, because it's not a one size fits all. If you've got bigger muscles, and so we've shared this protocol with your husky racing guys, agility, canicrossers, and now the flyball. And the thing is, there's a dose guidelines that have been established and set down by the World Association for Photobiomodulation Therapy. They've been well established, but when that paper came out about using doses for sports performance recovery, it blew those dose protocols out of the water, and it showed that if you're using it for that sort of athletic recovery or preparation, the dose protocols need to be way, way higher. The bigger that you are, it needs to be higher.
Yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Because you're just needing, if you're bigger, you've got more mitochondria, and if they are drinking up those photons, you're going to have to supply more photons in order to be able to get that metabolic effect. There's another show right there, I think, Ruth. So let's do a show on peacocks and the various wavelengths that they work with. But at the same time, I think looking at dosing and some specifics of dosing in order to help with recovery when there is an injury, but to help with the therapeutics of injury, and comparing human with canine athletes, I think that would be a really fascinating. However, that'll be maybe down the line. I think what I'd like to do with the shedding light on photobiomodulation, this whole podcast series, is start people off a little bit gradually and get them into the idea of thinking about light as a valid and useful and simple and safe way of helping to help their animals, not just dogs, not just cats, not just chickens, not just peacocks. It's just a really simple way of just saying, we've got inflammation there. How can we help that without reverting to pharmaceuticals? Nothing wrong with pharmaceuticals when they're used well, but this is just another string to your bow that I think I'm very, very keen to get people to think about. Think about exercise, think about rest, think about hydrotherapy, think about pharmaceuticals if they're necessary, think about acupuncture, think about osteopathy, chiropractic, think about all of these, stem cell therapy if you need to, but don't forget the light is really very, very, very important. We're running out of time here, as we always do with these shows, because there's so much to talk about. Is there anything that you'd really like to, some ideas that you'd like to leave people with, Ruth? Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm obviously a light geek.
Yeah, yeah,
I think what my uh, go-to messages really are is that it's important to consider light as another nutrient, or
totally.
the different ways they
Vitamin L. Yeah,
yeah. What's happening in your light diet,
yeah,
and or what's happening, or the effects of junk light on
yep.
our indoor animal, our pets at home,
Yeah, junk
and that
light. I'm trying to give an example, but okay, yeah, I've got a fancy light up there, which is just a plain old white LED, which
yeah,
gives you none of the richness, none of the color spectrum, especially at the top end, the reds and the infrareds.
yeah,
So, but
yeah,
it's useful for because
yeah.
cameras like it.
Bring the
Yeah.
lights down later on in the day when you're at home,
Mm,
winding
yeah,
down. Bring the lights down to more orangey, more sunset
yeah,
type light on a
yeah.
level, not high
And just
bright lights
yeah,
overhead.
bring the lux down as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
you and for the
and
animals
for
in the house.
your
Yeah,
animals for sure.
yeah,
And a really brilliant analogy that I I received when I went to a conference some years ago was
yeah.
that there was the lad speaking was talking about his journey to heal, and talking about all this amazing food that he was eating, the diet, and he thought it was all was focused on purely his what he was consuming in
What he was
regards
putting
to
in his
nutrition,
mouth.
right?
Yep, yep,
So
yep,
yeah,
yep.
for those petrol heads out there, is that you can put all the say you've got a high performance car, okay? You can put all your high performance fuel in, and oil, and all that food, high performing food.
Yeah.
But if your spark plugs are knackered, the engine would start. And that's
Your
what I
spark
think
plugs.
the
Yeah,
light is. It's the spark. And
sparks. Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah.
also there's a lot of, I think another podcast we talk about the effects of structured light, or light on structuring the water in the cells and that sort of thing.
Ooh,
Gerald
yeah.
Pollack's work,
Yeah,
Cortez
yeah,
water.
amazing.
Yeah.
Right, Tom, please mark us down for another show right there. That's good. Yeah, yeah. So lots to talk about. We should do more shows, really, shouldn't we? Um, this is absolutely fantastic. So I'm sure people would be interested to talk to you, to talk to the team at Photizo. There are other people who are doing these things.
Yeah.
But Fortizo, they're pretty much the leaders in this, and so if you'd like to talk to them, Ruth, where can people reach you guys?
So we're the UK arm. We're
Yeah,
the authorised UK distributor, been on board, and we bounce off each other. So we, as the authorised UK distributor, our business is called DaneTreeHealthProducts.com.
Daintree. How do you spell that, just for people?
So it's
D-
DANETRE
Yep,
healthproducts.com. But the
Daintree. Okay, yep.
yeah, the South African team, if they have any inquiries from the UK, they always forward them over to us, and people can reach them at Photizo, PHOTIZO.net.
Fotizo.net for the headquarters. And where are they based? Are they in South Africa?
Yeah, they're a place called Gauteng. I think that's how you pronounce it in South
Yeah.
Africa. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and it was
Okay.
actually the idea of the South African physio that all got it going. With
Great.
the there's unique programming in the software,
Yeah.
which is all pre-programmed with a sequence of pulsing and
Yeah.
continuous light. So people just don't have to think about it. The whole
Yeah.
idea really was just to bring
Make it simple. Yeah.
make it simple, make it as affordable as possible, so people could use it in the comfort of their own home as
Yeah.
regularly as possible.
Amazing. Okay, well that is fantastic. We could talk for hours on this stuff, and I'm sure next time we meet, we probably will, Ruth.
There's a
But
big
I've really,
thunderstorm going on outside here now. I don't know whether you
oh
can hear.
really? Yeah, I think it's thinking about it here as well, actually. But listen, absolutely fantastic. We're going to be shedding light on the world of healing on the 7th of July. And if you can just keep an eye on the social media where you're seeing this now, but other Instagram, Facebook, and those other areas, keep an eye on those, and we'll get some really interesting people to talk to. And there are so many aspects of light and healing and photobiomodulation that I think we could run for a decade and still not really touch the sides. But we're going to give it a good go. Ruth Milner from Photizo, that is absolutely great. It looks like you had one more thing to say.
Yeah, I was just looking at one of the questions. Is it
Yeah.
lol? Lol, she said about getting the pink one. Is that okay for dogs as well? I haven't got the pink one here, but the pink ones are well, the main skincare model is licensed for wounds for people. That's a shorter dose than the vet care.
Yeah.
The vet care is programmed with a 6 joules dose, which was considered a real good all-round dose for lots of different conditions. So the thing is, with the skincare one for wounds, it's only half the power, half the level of dose. So it's you can, it's that the animal one is only available in that colour, either with a beep or silent for sound sensitive animals.
But there's a human one which is dermatological, which is half the power, so you can just go really gently with skin and wound healing.
Or there's a stronger one which is for chronic pain relief.
Okay, and this is good. Jackie Ward, very briefly, I'm just going to put this up. We should go, Ruth, but I'm just going to... Oh, no, we can't do it. Tom is there. So this is Jackie saying, hope she won't mind me sharing this story. I had a spaniel which appeared paralysed after a fall from a height 2 weeks after the injury with no improvement. I discovered Photizo and started using it 3 times daily. Within a week, she started to move her tail slightly and kept improving from then on. Within 3 months, she was able to go on half-hour walks, albeit with a wobble and back legs. There we go. And Tom has put up Lollie's with lovely a sight hound there and somebody else. That's very nice. I will get the vet one. Yeah, it looks like you get a bit. It's slightly more powerful. Maybe you have to just come off a little bit to reduce dose. Have a chat with the guys at Photizo.net or with the guys at Daintree Health.
Yeah,
Daintree Health. Yeah, lots of information out there, but it's very difficult to do harm. But yeah, I think get your information right, and you can't go far wrong with Photizo.
There are certainly some products out on other sites that don't have that medical device certification back up. And those things. So do your due diligence.
I think do your homework and don't just go for the cheapest thing you can find on certain big websites beginning with A and ending with N. Do your homework and get something that has got some science behind it and has got licensed as a medical product. That would be a good idea. Okay, great. Listen, Ruth, how interesting. Lots and lots to talk about there. This is really, really good. I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Half an hour, you think, half an hour, that's a long time. But actually, once you get into it, there's not enough time, really. That's fantastic. We're going to say good night, goodbye to everybody. Be healthy, be well, get out in the light safely, healthily, and good luck with your journey, shedding light on your life.